A teraz przed Państwem cyfryzacja edukacji, biznes, rynek pracy, czyli okrągły stół partnerów kształcenia zawodowego, edukacji wyższej, rynku pracy, do którego Państwa teraz zapraszamy. Moderatorem okrągłego stołu jest Pan Rafał Kunaszyk, wiceprezes zarządu Eurokreator, spółka z.o.o. A gośćmi obrad są dr Wojciech Gola, Instytut Badań Edukacyjnych, Tomasz Kulasa, Departament Innowacji i Rozwoju Ministerstwa Edukacji. Zapraszamy na scenę. Damian Ciachorowski, Fundacja Global Artificial Intelligence Alliance, Tomasz Haiduk, Forum Automatyki i Robotyki Polskiej, Anna Wójcik-Wolska, Astor, Sławomir Kunka, IBM, dr Andrzej Pieńkowski, Katalyst Education, Barbara Halska, wicedyrektor Automatyki i Robotyki w Łodzi, Edyta Klimowska-Bobula, Wojewódzki Urząd Pracy w Krakowie. Oddaję Państwu głos. Dziękuję, że jesteście z nami.
Local Job Center in Krakow, Anna Wójcik-Wolska, Astor Academy.
Tu z mikrofonem mam nadzieję, że... O. Ja może tu stanę, chyba będzie najwygodniej i najłatwiej. Szanowni Państwo, to jest bardzo innowacyjne podejście do okrągłego stołu.
This is a very innovative approach to a round table because it's not round at all.
Okrągły stół, ale proszę
But
sobie wyobrazić,
że to
nieszczęsna scena, bo ja często uwielbiam łączyć osoby występujące w dyskusji z osobami, które są na sali. Uważam, że to dopiero buduje jakiś okrągły stół i dialog.
Really interactive. I mean, when there is interaction with the audience, this really is a round table to me.
Tak jak prosiłem, jeszcze jedno tutaj.
So I would also kindly like to ask about one more chair.
Dlaczego? Ja opowiem Państwu o tych zasadach, które sobie wspólnie z występującymi przyjęliśmy.
So I will now explain to you the rules of this panel.
Krótkie wystąpienia.
First of all, we will have short speeches.
I w momencie, kiedy to wystąpienie,
short interventions.
Państwa może podejść i po cichutku zająć miejsce i zadać pytanie osobie występującej.
During the intervention, you can approach us and ask a question to the speaker. I will also ask questions myself. And after this round of short interventions, we will have a debate. But I will make an introduction first. I like to call it a hot chair round table because you can approach us at any time, you can comment once you sit in this chair, but you can also give away this chair to others who would also like to contribute. So it's also good to share this space so that everyone can have a say. And yesterday the debate was really interesting. I had the opportunity to follow it. But let's take a different approach today. Let me start with Kurzweil, who's the engineer at Google. Once he said that the world will never evolve slower than now. And I remember 1992, back then I was on a train with my colleagues. They were new entrepreneurs, newly made entrepreneurs, and one of them took out his his mobile phone. It was an Ericsson, a huge block of a mobile phone, and he was trying to make a call. So now let's jump 92 to 93, and 1993. And just imagine that my colleague takes out a smartphone out of his pocket. So this is the pace of the development. And recently, my company, Eurokreator, took part in a tender. And the concept for this tender had been made 2 years before the tender. And now some of the technological solutions in the standard are now completely out of date because the reality has changed so much. So let's now move on to the interventions. And please introduce yourself and before you start, tell us what institution you are representing. So let me ask you to start with the speaker from the Ministry of Education. And this is going to be a speech about the objectives of the government that we would like to reach, but the world is changing so fast. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Tomasz Kulasa from the Department of Innovation and Development of the Ministry of Education. So I'm the first one to speak, so this has an advantage because I can say whatever I want and I'm not going to repeat what others have said. So we deal with digitization, but also research and strategic planning. Today it's, reading the tea leaves. As you have said, if you set goals in a 10-year term, it's very risky because everything is changing so fast.
Robienie badań i na bazie tych badań planowanie przy takim właśnie skokach technologicznych.
So you can do research, you can do planning.
Sprawia dużą trudność
but it's very difficult with so rapid technological changes.
Wykształcenie, patrząc generalnie na system takiej elastyczności i takiego poziomu, określenie takich ram funkcjonowania, które pozwolą.
So you need a flexible framework. A framework which is flexible enough so that you can adjust your objectives on the way, adjust them to the changing reality.
Jak to sztuczna inteligencja trafiła do powszechnego obiegu, że tak powiem.
There is AI. It's now commonly used. So I can tell you about the plans we were making. When we were preparing the current financial perspective for the EU funds, we wanted to carry out activities with the use of AI, and the European Commission was asking us, what do you need it for? Why would you need AI in education? But then it's changed, and now it's obvious to everyone. No one is asking anymore why AI is there. They are asking why it's so late that it has entered the market of education. The problem is that if you're working in the governmental administration, you're planning certain activities, well, by default there is inertia and it takes time. There are procedures, there are rules you have to meet. And that's why we will always be behind the business community.
Ważne jest, żeby to, co planujemy, co chcemy realizować, było tak skonstruowane, żeby
Therefore, our plans and activities have to keep up with the current environment. It's also important to collaborate with all the stakeholders of the system.
Żeby ta współpraca występowała. Tutaj dla nas takim na pewno wyzwaniem właśnie jest współpraca z biznesem na różnych.
So this also brings a challenge to us. Collaborating with business can be challenging at many different levels, because you're probably aware of the fact that we operate at the central level. This means that we can't address all the issues that should be addressed. That's why we have to pick some specific objectives that we want to work towards. And we need NGOs and companies that are interested in supporting the system.
Zapewne Państwo też już zdążyli zauważyć, że tych dokumentów takich, które mają na poziomie strategicznym określać dalsze działania.
You probably realize that there are many documents of strategic nature. This year we have adopted the policy of digitization in education. It addresses the issue of training and teaching digitization specialists, but also the Ministry of Digitization is drafting the digitization strategy. The Ministry of Fund is now drafting the midterm strategy of national development. And what matters here is for all these strategies to be compatible. They need to share the same catalog of objectives we want to reach. So in order to achieve that, we need to be more versatile. We need to go beyond our specific field of work to make all these objectives and activities compatible. It's also a challenge for us. Nowadays, there are so many projects in the pipeline at the local, regional, national, European level, and there are so many sources of funding for these projects. And there are also different challenges on the way. So all these efforts need to be coordinated and managed. And it's very important for all these projects not to overlap or clash. Sometimes different ministries, different administrative bodies do different things that should be coordinated and aren't. And here we are speaking about the national level, which is a huge endeavor. So from our point of view, well, there are many challenges that we need to face. So for us, it's important to be collaborative, to work with other companies and entities that might help us. Thank you. So now you can ask questions or make comments. So I'm just reminding you about this protocol so that this panel becomes interactive. I have a question. I remember 2005, I sat on the Leviathan's board back then. Some business people from the UK came to visit, and they said that they are advisors to the vocational education system. It was about graduates from vocational schools. They said this means that we are making plans for what's going to come in 5-6 years. But back then, the pace of changes was completely different. So now, I represent the initiative of family companies. How can we join this process you were talking about? My questions are not going to be easy. I'm just thinking what's the best way to answer your question. There are many ways in which you can interact with us, but well, certainly for this we need to be open to your feedback, because it's always worth consulting our ideas and our solutions with other stakeholders. What we really value is having regular meetings with different stakeholders where we can set out our plans and also receive your feedback and also listen to your suggestions and expectations. There are regular meetings we hold with Leviathan, for instance, and this week we're going to have another meeting with Leviathan, which is the organization of entrepreneurs.
raz, że opiniują nam nasze pomysły i jeszcze zanim one
also like meetings with experts to consult our ideas,
już potem na etapie gotowych
to check whether they make sense, and once our ideas are already ready, we can also double check with them whether maybe they could be adjusted in a way.
Wydaje mi się, że taka otwartość właśnie otwartość, gotowość do rozmów po naszej stronie jest bardzo ważna.
I think that it's very important for us to be open and willing to talk with others and consult things. There are many entities and organizations which exist to help us, to support our activities. So we do have our mechanisms of collaboration, but it all relies on trust. We need to trust each other because on the one hand, they need to trust that whatever we put forward makes sense.
Z rozwagą i podchodzą do nich też z takim myśleniem, że może to nie od razu jest złe, tylko warto się nad tym zastanowić, podyskutować. A z drugiej strony,
it's about having an approach where you don't reject our ideas up front.
One nam nie są do niczego potrzebne, my mamy swoją wizję, swój pomysł.
You know, by saying that, well,
po to, żeby ten proces konsultacji
that they are useless, but on the other hand, we also need to be open to the fact that consultations and opinions of external bodies matter, and we shouldn't reject them up front as well.
Jak będzie wyglądał ten świat kształcenia zawodowego? Wszyscy jesteśmy ciekawi rozwijającej się sztucznej inteligencji.
Now, the next speaker, we're all interested in AI, also the generative AI.
Oprócz Fundacji Gaia jestem też
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I work in the Gola Foundation and also at the Gdańsk Technological University, so I'm going to take my intervention from this angle, and what I'm going to say might be a bit controversial.
Już na tym etapie, jeżeli chodzi powiedzmy o dostępną technologię, jesteśmy w stanie w 100% zastąpić wszystkich nauczycieli i
the technology we have at our disposal is already capable of replacing all the teachers. So we are able, if we want to create a whole school with avatars,
wymyślimy. Może to być
the avatars can replace any person you can think of. The Spider-Man James Bond can teach you chemistry with a female voice. Whatever you can think of. So you can create very elaborate ways of presenting science. You can have a 20-minute class, 1-hour class. You can use animation, image, whatever you want.
Z punktu widzenia technologicznego człowiek nie jest już nam potrzebny.
So speaking from the point of view of technology, you don't need humans anymore for the school of the future.
Niemniej jednak ten proces jest niczym innym jak operacją na ludzkim organizmie, który nie jest jeszcze poddany narkozie.
This is like
efekty tego wszystkiego, co teraz
performing a surgery on a live body without anesthesia.
W miejscu naszego życia będą widoczne za kilka lat.
The effects of the changes we are undergoing now will be seen in a few years.
Oddziaływanie technologii na nasze chociażby funkcje poznawcze.
We don't know yet what the effects of technology will be on our cognitive functions, our ability to relax. There are also many other aspects linked with using technology in different locations or organizations. Funds are not a problem.
Słaba technologia, która istnieje na świecie, bo według praw ekonomii, czym więcej pieniędzy mamy, tym więcej pieniędzy.
According to the laws of economy, the more money we have, the more money we will want. And we will also find new ways of spending it.
Problemem we wdrażaniu technologii
the main challenge in introducing new technologies in schools is actually the human factor.
Ale żeby sprzedać uczniom, to musimy być świadomi, jakie są plusy i minusy tej technologii.
To put it bluntly, sell the technology to the students. And in order to do it effectively, we need to know what are the challenges and opportunities. And I'm sure that you can read up yourself on blue light, green light, digital detox, etc. The main obstacle actually we're facing in the process of implementation is the fear of technology. Because ultimately, it's the employee, usually working at a low level, that determines how the implementation process will go. There are multinationals out there that invest crazy amounts in new technologies that an average person would not be able to understand the purpose of. So, still, if you carry out your implementation within a set deadline, within a given budget, even if you carry out tons of evaluation and monitoring processes during the implementation, finally the whole initiative may fail because the very last link in this long chain is a regular employee who may just choose not to use this new technology that you have just introduced. So this is what I have in mind when I talk about this fear or wariness of new technologies. And this brings me to the question, why should teachers want to use new technologies in the classroom? Some of them fear that maybe technology will replace them in the future. I think that this fear is very unfounded. Yet we can find numerous small and medium enterprises that are firing people because they automate their processes. And this generates another set of problems that probably will cause headache to my colleague to my right, because this will lead to increased unemployment rate and other economic phenomena that will ultimately lead to higher prices for everyday articles for fast-moving consumer goods that we buy every day. So large language models is one thing, and the examples of tools based on those are ChatGPT and a few others. These tools have a lot of advantages and a lot of disadvantages, because if you use Gen AI in an unsupervised manner, is just as bad as not using it at all.
Nauczania, jeżeli tak jakby wykorzystujemy tę technologię w pracy, musimy być tym tak jakby nadzorcą.
So what we need to do, or whom we need to be, is the supervisor, the person monitoring the work. So I'm in charge not of the end result, but I'm in charge of the way my subordinates work, how they use those tools. This requires giving students different tasks and assess them not on the basis of the final outcome, that is an essay or a conceptual engineering work, but will assess how they are making use of the tools that they have available. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm absolutely in favor of digital transformation. This is my main area of expertise at the University of Gdańsk, and every day we get countless new developments in this area. This is truly fascinating. On a finishing note, I want to say that it's very important to adopt a sustainable approach to digital transition. we need to have a full understanding of the type of technology that we want to introduce to an organization, because only that will be free from bias and free from wariness connected with that technology. As administrators and as promoters of this technology, we're able to guide our students or our employees through this process and help them make the best use of this technology that can support the mission of the organization. Now I would like to move to vocational education from the world of higher education. Barbara, you're an educator. You were given an award of a Teacher of the Year. And so you're also a practitioner, practicing teacher, but you're also a coordinator of larger processes. So what is your take on this?
Z mikrofonem, więcej można wsparcie prosić.
Widzicie, można skorzystać z wsparcia kolegi z prawej strony. Bardzo dziękuję za zaproszenie. Proszę Państwa,
thank you for inviting me to join this panel. Already the previous speakers have touched upon a few important issues.
Transformacją cyfrową, więc musimy bardzo ją tak naprawdę analizować i patrzeć na nią.
I think that we should closely monitor all developments connected with digital transition, and moreover, we need digital transition in vocational education. And I think that we actually should prod the institution that is responsible in Poland for vocational exams and encourage them to move to the 21st century and abandon their old ways. We are the first institution that has an exam on automatics and robotization that involves the use of Google VR glasses, and I believe that this should happen on a nationwide level. This shouldn't be something niche or unique. So our students in the summer exam session will be the first students in Poland who will take their vocational exam in virtual reality.
Mamy w zawodzie automatyk. Na pewno będą zdawali w zawodzie automatyk.
For sure, the students who study automation will take this exam. Yes, if you have questions, feel free to ask them straight away. You don't have to wait for the Q&A session. So I think it's quite impressive. It impresses our students, and it is quite impressive also for those who introduced VR in their businesses. Because you might be aware that some discount stores in Poland are using VR goggles to train their employees. So it's already out there. And the advantage of such a solution is that we will able to cut costs, because we will not have to use real devices during the exam, so there is no risk that they will be damaged. It's also going to be easier for the Central Examination Committee to plan the exam session. And they will also save money, because they will not have to invest in renovation and spare parts for machines that are used during the exam. Actually, our school is a pioneering one, because we have offered a specialization in automation and robotics. So we were the first ones. Later, we were followed by the ministry that put this type of a profile on the curriculum. We are also writing the national curriculum for the new area of specialization, namely cybersecurity. So we are censors of sorts. So what we do is that we prepare the curriculum, but we also develop projects that allow our students, for instance, to go abroad. And it's not just for them to, quote unquote, see the world. We want to give them actual educational opportunities. We also want to train good specialists, because we know that this is what the labor market expects from us. There are employers who want graduates who have certain skills, and we're all aware that without the EU funds, Polish vocational training domain would not be as advanced, because just to buy machines that are used during the examination session cost $500,000 of Polish zlotys, which is roughly 100,000 euro. And actually what motivates me to work is that students who attend our schools look at us and are hopeful. They see us as their mentors and also as people who open doors for them, who create circumstances in which they can grow and flourish. So for this reason, I believe that the teachers are here to stay. The professional teachers, especially good teachers, those who understand their multifaceted role, will not be replaced by machines. Actually, I decided not to participate in the launch of the report on AI in schooling. I decided not to go to this event, to be here with you today. And interestingly, in that report, it has been established in the preparation of the report that the students think that they are better than teachers as far as AI goes. And I would like to underscore the word think in this context. Because there are teachers who are tech savvy, but we should also learn from students themselves. For instance, when a student approaches me who tells me, look, do you know that you can use, let's say, ChatGPT in the following manner? And if I don't know, first of all, I express my interest. And second of all, I ask the student, hey, would you like to give a presentation on this to your peers? And I also, speaking of getting young people engaged, I would love to see representatives of students at a round table like this one. I hope it's not too revolutionary for Rafał. Yesterday, during the panel, one speaker said that 60% of young people decide to go for vocational education. Why? Because this will give them a profession, because they know that the labor market needs them, and you know that they will have contact with actual employers and internships. And actually, the round of applause was for keeping the internship process in place, because we need to introduce legal solutions that will make it even easier for young people to become interns in companies, so that the company do not pull out from the internship programs because it's just too much hassle. Unfortunately, we do not have a council on vocational education in Poland. We do have a council on digitization, but we do not have an entity that is working with the Ministry of Education and is responsible for vocational education, because we do have a lot of ideas on how to improve it. One would be using VR goggles during exams, having more room for maneuver for developing curricula for various professions. Because currently the teachers develop those curricula and we are responsible for them, while it's the Ministry of Education should be doing this. We elected them and this is their job. I cast my vote in democratic elections because I want the people who are elected to listen to what I have to say. Thank you so much. As you can see, the debate is getting heated. And if there are any comments or questions in the audience, feel free to to ask questions. We can hand you the mic. Konrad, welcome. Please join the panel.
Witam Państwa bardzo serdecznie. Niezwykle miło mi być tutaj gościem.
Good morning and welcome.
A także w jakimś sensie też w ograniczonym, skromnym
I'm
sensie reprezentacji.
very grateful that I can be a host and to a small degree also the organizer, the host of this event. I want to say that actually the entity that you are talking about did exist. It was the Council of Vocational School Principals. And we can resurrect this entity, because I had a sense that when this entity existed for 15 years, it was a source of knowledge and information for the ministry and beyond, and other institutions that are beyond the ministry. And of course you can disagree with me. Because I don't, like I'm not omniscient.
Uruchomić taki element, skoro wiemy, że był lub są wątpliwości.
I'm just coming up with an idea that maybe this type of an entity can be resurrected, because I believe it worked well. Also, I would like to refer to the debates that we had yesterday, just the fact that we're sitting here together and having a dialogue already creates a platform for exchanging information, best practices, and moving things ahead. Actually, I think that we need not just one round table every now and then, but a more regular structure. I have one more question to Barbara, actually. I remember that back in 2019, I talked with Professor Dylak, the author of the concept of a reverse classroom. Actually, Professor had amazing foresight, and one night he told me, Rafał, we keep teaching students how to write software code, but we should not teach them how to code, we should teach them how to think in an algorithmic way. And now, for instance, I have a student, I know a student who's studying economics. He's a second-year student, and he is taught also how to prompt ChatGPT to obtain the desired answers. So maybe we should train teachers on that. But I have a sense that what we teach is just how to use tools and not to how to make sense of the contemporary world, as Professor Dylak wanted us to. Well, the AI is here, new technologies are here, and I think that what we need to do is just completely overhaul the education system. And from my perspective, the AI is an assistant that helps us solve problems, and we need to focus in our education system on problem solving. So we would give students a number of information, a number of pieces of information, and their task would be to solve a problem using the information available. Actually, I have a sense that this Council for Digitization has a very difficult task of briefing the ministry on what needs to be done. For many years now, we have been talking about the drawbacks of this ex cathedra teaching, that we need to move away from a classroom setup in which the teacher is standing in the middle of the classroom and just preaching to the students. And the same goes for changing the approach to new technologies and overhauling the education system. We need to move away from memorizing information to inspiring students, telling them, for instance, look, drones or rovers were made based on observations of the animal world. So where can you draw inspiration from in your profession?
bo teorie nawet, które my jako...
Or for instance, how can you use the AI to prepare yourself for your future profession?
Zlikwiduje konkretne zawody, okazało się
there was fear for a moment that the advent of artificial intelligence will do away with certain professions. And interestingly, the AI is here, and some professions that were supposed to be replaced are still there, while other professions that we did not expect to be replaced are under threat. Well, I started to think about Astor. Astor is a bridge between the world of business and manufacturers. And their robots are used on assembly lines. And often the business approach is, oh, I'm going to buy a number of robots. One's going to play football, the other one is going to make pencils, and the third one is going to do something else. So when we think of robotics and employers' needs, we should ask ourselves the question, what kind of solutions we should look for? What should be offered in a school to make this effective? What skills we should train? So I'd like to suggest this as a topic for development. Good morning. Actually, I work at Astor. Astor is a company that has been on the market of industrial robotics and automation for 35 years. I'm in charge of trainings, so I can give you a few practical remarks. But coming back to your question, what should be taught at school to correspond to the needs of the labor market, that is, of employers? Well, the school should definitely foster basic competencies. So languages, Polish and English. School should train students in maths and then economics. Moreover, the student should have the possibility to dive deep into an area that interests him or her, be it history, biology, mechanics. It's important for teachers to see the potential and talents in their students, so that the students can come to school hopeful that actually they will learn something, that the teacher will be their source of support, and that the school will be the place where they can grow and develop their passions. If students really support, if teachers really support students, if they have the tools to do so, like labs or technical equipment that can help students to learn more and to also test their knowledge in the actual setting in practical terms. So this is already a lot. We actually work closely with schools. We organize programs for internships. We also interview students as possible future employees. Students that come to us actually are quite knowledgeable, but often they lack practical experience. Even if a given vocational school is equipped with a special robot or a machine, well, the students don't have really the possibility to practice. Well, the students can look at it maybe once a week during a 45 minutes class, but the school is just afraid that this machine will be broken, that it will fail, and this was quite an expensive purchase for the school. So our company has knowledge sharing as a part of its mission. So we have developed an educational robot called Astorino. It's a small robot that we want to introduce to Polish schools. This robot could help students to develop their skills in classes that focus on automation and robotics. But we also need teachers who know how to teach practical skills, because academic knowledge is not enough. We want this Astorino robot to make it to schools. And I would like to mention a social program that we launched on the 1st of October.
It's called Robots for Schools. It covers primary and secondary schools. Any school can join the program free of charge, and we will give away such robots for the next 2 years, giving 1 robot per month. We would like like to bring together the business community, local business community and students in schools.
Oferujemy różnego rozwiązania z dziedziny
We are a commercial company. We also offer automation and robotics solutions, but we really care about supporting education.
Naszych klientów, te firmy otrzymują punkty, które
our customers, when they spend 1,000 zlotys, they receive points, and with these points they can donate points to schools, and the school that receives the highest score will get a robot. These are, in short, the rules of the program.
Jeżeli chodzi o automatyzację i robotyzację, że ona odbierze ludziom pracę, czy tak jak sztuczna inteligencja, to też jest
about the issue of robots and automation taking away jobs from humans. Well, I think that AI should be a tool for us, and we should be who manages, who controls AI.
To zarówno pod kątem tego, że no jeszcze jest co robotyzować.
In Poland there is still a lot of room for automation, robotization, which means we will need jobs such as robotics engineers, robotics specialists, people who will control and manage AI. We will need engineers capable of programming robots.
Cały przemysł 4.0 opiera się właśnie na cyfryzacji.
The whole industry 4.0 is based on digitization, so we will need these skills.
To nie jest tak, że robotyzacja i automatyzacja wypiera ludzi.
But it doesn't mean that automation and robotization is pushing away people from the job market.
Gdzie praca ludzi, znaczy dla człowieka jest po prostu zwyczajnie.
Industrial robots usually are used in situations where it's too dangerous for people to perform these duties, like manual, repetitive tasks, putting pallets one on another, etc. This is not safe for people. So I wouldn't be afraid of that. The robotization should be a support for us. We are not going to avoid it. Technology is advancing, and we can only join this trend to shape the reality, not to be dependent on the technology, but to be the one who paves the way.
Ale pojawił się tam bardzo dla mnie ciekawy wątek, też w kontekście ministerstwa, ale w ogóle bym powiedział pewnej polityki państwa.
There's one interesting thing about the ministry and the national policy. There was a meeting and research was discussed about CEE and ESG and companies and the willingness of companies to join social programs. They said one interesting thing. In Poland, charity activity is a much talked about issue, but in other countries it's often a commercial model, which means that if a company donates a robot to the state, it gets tax credits in return. And this is an interesting approach, I think. In France, it exists, for instance, because we are still catching up with technology. 2 or 3 years ago, we were developing HoloLens. It was an innovative project, and I contacted the company now again, and they are saying that this technology is already old-fashioned, outdated, and we are giving it up. So we need to catch up all the time. And I have a question to you as business people. Mr. Haiduk, unfortunately, is not here with us, but he is attending the Robotics and Automation Forum, so he's fully justified. There is a meeting about robotics and automation and the professional education centers in the Ministry of Education at the same time being held now.
Jak przedsiębiorcy dzisiaj się organizują? Bo myślę, że to jest bardzo ciekawy wątek. Gdyby pani
I would like to ask you a question in this context. So, How do entrepreneurs organize themselves to support vocational education collectively?
Na pewno to, o czym Pan wspomniał, czyli te różne zorganizowane instytucjonalizowane może spotkania.
Well, you have already mentioned the institutional initiatives or meetings, because we really want our voice to be heard, because it's our common interest, the interest of the business community, to get the best workers.
Tutaj, jak Pan jeszcze mógł naprowadzić mnie na pytanie.
Państwa współpraca w ramach forum automatyki i robotyki.
How do you collaborate within the forum of robotics and automation? You as Astor, you have started to work together to shape the market, because we want to speak up together, because we share the same interests. We want people who are entering the job market to be good specialists, to be highly skilled. So companies should help schools, provide them equipment. Okay, so now let's move to the job market and the human-centered approach, because we have been talking about AI, robotics, technologies. But there's always, in anything you have said, you have been strongly focused on people, on human beings. Before I speak about human beings, I would like to add a point to what the member of the Ministry of Education has said, this very important phase of strategic planning. The Ministry of Education has some very good experience in models based on participation, models of creating drafting documents from the very beginning, from the very early stage, before the consultation process. So if you involve stakeholders from the very beginning, the document is more likely to be also for them and not without them. And the integrated skills strategy was implemented this way, so it's an interesting case. And this was a perfect case of evidence-based politics. Because it was all happening in real time. And coordination is crucial. Because we usually function in silos, and this is very important, and this happens both at the regional and national level, so it's essential for us to rethink how we would like to collaborate, because I know that the Ministry of Education has tried a few times to collaborate with my ministry, and many times it has failed. And we need real, actual collaboration, because education is a meta topic. So whatever happens in the system, it's age specific. So you have young people until they become university graduates. But if you are thinking about vocational training, it's a different thing, because it's about educating adults on a daily basis. Usually it's informal, non-formal education. Usually adults learn themselves, and this has been shown in statistics. And we have set ourselves the objective of 60% of adults, and you can see the research, the latest research. We can see that there's a huge gap between the actual situation and the current situation and the goal. So there is no time if we want to if we want to overcome the gap.
który ma przed sobą coś, czego nie zna, oczywiście popada w pewien lęk.
Well, people usually are afraid of things they don't know, and it's totally natural and understandable. Now, we have to motivate them. So how? Because usually adults learn because they must, but we want them to want. So you can do it, you can achieve it through professional guidance, through career counseling for adults. You need a whole system for that. I will tell you about a case in my office. So when I was preparing for this debate, I came up for a few interesting. I came across a few interesting cases. So there is professional guidance. And sometimes I get the impression that we are trying to solve problems today with tools that are from the previous century. So we need tools, and whether it's for teachers, professional career advisors, trainers, you need to provide them with the right tools. Well, basically you want to convince people that all these latest technological tools, AI, etc. are cool, and we should get acquainted with them. But we need motivation for that ourselves, so we need the right tools. The local job markets and career planning centers have some tools at their disposal. But apart from that, we are trying to use some other tools that can speed up analyses for us or help us perform auditing. So in general, it's about analyzing the data we have at our disposal. And we also have our own projects. Some of them have been very innovative and entered the mainstream afterwards. But we took on responsibility for human resources in our region. So we prepared the distribution of the EFSO funds for people entering the market, so they were vouchers, but before people got the vouchers, they had to go through career counseling. Some were really reluctant to do so. They thought they didn't need it because they thought they knew what they wanted. Some of them wanted a driving license for a truck or for a front loader. But once they have got through the process, they realized that they had so many skills, and they changed their approach. So 56,000 people, this is how many people we reached in the previous edition of the program. And I have mentioned motivation because now we have become a victim of our success, because now we have automated the process of recruitment and self-assessment. We realized that, well, we concluded that, well, now people know that career counseling is fine, so they will be able to do it themselves. Because during our project, career counseling was provided in libraries and schools. Sometimes it was a remote village, so it was a very mobile service just to teach people that it's worth using counseling, career counseling. But now, in this new edition, we want to make them use the digital ID profile
proszę Państwa, zadziało? Otóż zadziało się to,
and to do things themselves.
weszli do projektu.
And what
Ale
happens, ladies and gentlemen? There are people who
niestety nie ukończyli.
for whom it worked, but there were also people who dropped out from the recruitment process, and we don't know why yet. We are going to analyze it. But what we are afraid of is that some people lacked some basic digital skills and they were excluded. And this is something we can't allow ourselves to have. So that's why the human being should be at the center of every process, and motivation is very important. You have to keep motivating people. It's very important. You can't neglect that.
I wracając jeszcze do tego, co mówił pan z Politechniki.
And getting back to what the speaker from the University of Technology has said, let me mention another example, a public body, a national public body, a great person in charge of adult education. I'm not going to name anyone here, but one day before he or she retired, they went to hospital. And she said that she was defeated by the electronic document flow system. And this is a person who is still professionally active. But we have to pay a lot of attention to who we are dealing with. There are almost 400 employees in my job center. But the same goes for our target groups, for our clients.
Rozchodzą się na różne strony, ale tworzą pewną taką domykającą się mapę.
Well, I think that you have mentioned many different aspects here, but they all make up a consistent map of things.
Ze strony organizacji pozarządowej, która wspiera te procesy.
I think that now it's worth mentioning an NGO that supports the processes and creates tools, also tools for career development. So the floor goes to the representative of an NGO. Andrzej Pieńkowski from the Katalyst Education Foundation. You probably don't know the name, but maybe you've heard about the career map. This is a tool created in 2014.
Uważamy, że za późno jest docierać i budzić tę motywację.
We created the tool because we think that
przede wszystkim z naukami technicznymi, z zajęciami technicznymi. Za późno
once you finish your formal education, rather, we think that it's too late to motivate people and to develop their interest in STM at the end of the primary school or in secondary school.
Dwa wykresy, jeden pokazujący jaki procent.
Recently, OECD published two diagrams.
Uczniów nie pracuje ani się nie.
The percent of students that don't work and don't attend any school 1 year after finishing their education. And Poland is still the one that lost and also is at the very end in another category, which also proves why we should reach students at an earlier stage.
Oni to nazywają, mogę nazwać dysonansem między planami zawodowymi a
so OECD calls it the dissonance between their career plans and the awareness of what it takes, what you need to get there. So in Poland is one of the last countries in this ranking as well. So let's say a student declares that they want to be an IT specialist.
Wykonywać jakiś bardzo wysokopoziomowy zawód, ale nie planuje studiów.
Or they want a high-level position, but they are not aware of the fact that they should have university degree for that.
Że jest ten rozdźwięk.
So you can see that there's clearly a gap.
To jest po prostu taki, że my tych uczniów tracimy wcześniej.
So as a consequence, we lose these students at a much earlier stage. Therefore, we created the career map because we thought that teachers at school should be helped to develop an interest in students in certain fields and subjects, so that they gain the awareness that they should start thinking about their plans much earlier. The project was co-created with the business community, with the employers community, and there are many tools that are quite well thought through. And it's very popular. In November, 80,000 people used the tool, the map. So if you don't know it, please do try it.
Z tymi rzeczami, które mogą skłonić je do zdobycia tych podstawowych kompetencji, o których tu mówimy.
You should reach children as soon as possible so that they develop an interest and try to get the skills, take the understanding of technology.
Mam wrażenie, że w ogóle dyskusja wokół sztucznej inteligencji.
We are discussing AI here, and I think that we usually focus in these discussions on tools like ChatGPT, but this is just a tiny bit of the AI reality. And it's not the most important one. The most important ones are technological, industrial processes automated through AI. For instance, systems that teach industrial robots to recognize colors or shapes and make decisions. In drug manufacturing, robots are in use that remove ill-shaped pills. So these robots also rely on AI, but just a single aspect of AI, like recognizing shapes or sounds.
For instance, in the US, there are already systems installed that recognize the sound of a gunshot. So they allow to identify whether a gun was shot in the street, more or less where. And this is one case of AI use. So my perspective on AI is that individual tools are like building blocks that can be put together to create very advanced solutions. And children from very early on should be taught about them and trained in how to use them. For instance, I don't know if you would be interested in combining your robot with an open source robot that is available for anyone. Children can actually write software for a robotic arm. It's an open source possibility available online. So if, for instance, you would like to have your students trained on that robot because, for instance, you didn't get a grant to buy a robot for yourself, then you can you can join this initiative and have access to a robot simulator. So we are trying to inspire children about the potential of STEM and show them what interesting career options they have ahead of them if this is something that interests them. Actually, we no longer talk about getting a profession in this very changeable world, but we're talking more about a set of competencies that constantly need to be developed and kept up to date. What we want to do is to instill in our students love for experiments, for lifelong learning, for taking the building blocks they have available and putting them together, be it software programming, be it AI tools. We want them to understand that, yes, these are the building blocks that they have at their disposal, and maybe their future job, their task will be to put those blocks together. Yeah, we are actually teaching our students about the possibilities that robots have in identifying, visual identifying items. For us, actually, a breakthrough period was during the pandemics. We organized trainings, complex trainings for adults, but not only, we also train younger students. Still, but our main audience are adult engineers. And then the pandemic came. We had to close our institute while our the employers of our graduates still reported demand for skilled workers. So we just came up with an idea of developing a remote curriculum. Initially, nobody believed that we would make it. Nobody believed that we would be able to train students on how to use robots without with them, being at home. And yet we managed. We just created a simulated workstations with robots. Then we offered similar trainings at universities. We were approached by university lecturers with requests for ideas. They had exactly the same challenge. They couldn't teach students in a university classroom, so they turned to us for inspiration on how to do it remotely. We also offer remote trainings in real time. I mean, we do have e-learning programs that can be asynchronous, but we offer as well online training programs that take place in real time, and everyone could join them from home. I have one more question. We keep talking about young people with no young people represented in this panel, right? So I try to empathize every now and then with my daughters. One of them is 20, the other is 18. One of them tells me about her friend who is a product tester. She just tests products and shoots YouTube clips, and she actually gets 8,000 euro per video clip. Of course, she started with much lower rates, so she would get 100 euro, 200 euro per clip, and then she progressively worked her way up. So my question is, when you think about career counseling and career development, do you take into account the experience of the younger generation? Well, I'm not really sure how to address this question. Of course, we talk with young people. We try to understand how they think, what they need. We also have kids ourselves. We also have access to feedback from schools that are using the roadmap. So let's say that we're in touch. Okay, I understand, but I want to invite you to think about what can we do to maybe penetrate their world a bit more, to get a bit deeper into their perspective. Well, I'll put it this way. I had a very calm childhood. There was no AI looming over us and threatening me and my parents with losing their job. There were no new technologies that would consume my time and attention and stand between me and a more pleasant life and educational experience. While the current generation is very anxious, in my opinion. They don't know what to do, and rarely they encounter people that help them to find their way in this a scary world. Maybe they need someone who would tell them that, hold on, like the world is changing, but not that quickly. Actually, historically, we have a tendency to overestimate the pace of changes in the world. And I would risk making an assumption that this is going to be the case this time as well. That actually it will turn out that people are not that easily replaceable, that many professions will stand the test, will survive, but just their nature will change. So I guess that I would address the question in the following way. I would discuss openly the changes that we're undergoing, but without fear-mongering. And I would encourage students to be creative, to be open, and the best way to achieve them is to give them positive educational experience. There are many people who are afraid of maths or think that they're not talented because they had, I don't know, failed a test in their 5th grade. And the same applies to all other walks of life. If you do not have a positive experience in a given area, or in a given walk of life, then you won't be motivated to pursue it. You'll get discouraged. Actually, there was a survey on why the young people are unhappy. Well, there is climate change, there is mental health crisis, there is a lot of anxiety, etc. True, this is all valid. At the same time, when I talk to young people, for instance, to my assistant, we're organizing an event, a conference with a certain budget. And he said, okay, so we have organized this conference. In 3 weeks, I'm doing another event for startups. And actually, I have a number of investors attending and 20 startups that already will declare that they will participate. And the next day, he calls me to tell me that he is involved in some extracurricular activities. And that he is currently recruiting potential fellows and participants. I remember that back in the day, I participated with Adriana in a pilot project on micro referentials. And we noticed an interesting phenomenon. It was still in the COVID era. It turned out that the young people fared quite well. They would get credentials and skills confirmations at Harvard and at Stanford. They would sign up for courses and then got micro-credentials. Another friend told me, look, I have combined 2 courses and they will help me to shape my career path. So I wonder, what is the most exciting thing for those young people who already know what they want to do with their career? Why they prefer to get a large number of micro-credentials, micro-references, instead of broadly thinking about getting a profession? So actually, I would like to address a few threads that were mentioned earlier, and then I will answer your question. Yeah, maybe we should start with explaining what micro references are. Yes, that's a separate matter, but I would like to refer to what the previous speaker said because it raised my interest. One is the future of education. Is it going to stay the same? Is it going to change? And if so, how? Will teachers still be around? Will essays as a form of examination will still be in place? Right, because the purpose of the educational purpose of writing an essay is not to write an essay itself, right? It's not the product. Essay is a form that helps to practice critical thinking, coming up with arguments, making a point and defending it, getting into a debate with thesis put forward by other people. This is the purpose of writing an essay. And the report of the World Economic Forum demonstrates that exactly the skills that are practiced when writing an essay will be among the most desired ones in the future economy. So I hope that the exercise of writing essays will stay in our system of education. And now, coming back to micro-references. Micro-references are digital confirmations of our skills. Yesterday, one participant asked about what is most important in education. Well, skills, and micro-references are a way to confirm those skills. And what is important is also to keep students motivated to develop their skills and to get confirmation that they actually have them. And this is the role of micro-references. So again, someone has just said that we're no longer talking about professions, but about sets of competencies that have to be constantly updated. Micro-references can be like an addition to diplomas or degrees. Even in the K-12 or vocational education, can be like those building blocks that we use to build our image, or like that reflect our skills. So these concept of digital micro-references is very much connected with the development of synchronous, asynchronous learning, formal and informal trainings. And the open batches, which was the first format of micro-references. In this context, it was created in 2022. 500,000 of templates of certificates confirming digital skills were created, and nearly 75 million of digital references were issued. So this shows you the scale of this phenomenon, which is not negligible. The EU realized that micro-references have a great potential, and this led to the creation of the EU infrastructure for digital references, such as Europass, for instance. In this approach, again, the solution allows to give digital confirmation to skills. And on one hand, it generated some anxiety, but on the other, it generated also a lot of enthusiasm. It all boils down to our perception of the new tools, whether they are safe and useful, or maybe there are solutions that are not safe and not useful. Let's take M-Citizen, which is a mobile ID app that was introduced by the Polish government. Most of us do have M-Citizen app on their phones. Most of us do access their bank account on their mobile phones. E-commerce is also an important part of our economy. So this just shows that there is a lot of solutions that are very that are very close to new technologies, and that are fueled by new technologies, and we're not afraid of them. And micro-references is one of them. And in their context, we're looking for those solutions that will be perceived as useful, because one can use them to confirm skills. And actually not just the digital dimension is important here, the fact that we develop an app, and this app will be a platform for issuing and sharing digital micro-references. So not only the digital dimension matters, but what matters is that the solution is reliable, safe, and validated.
Czyli jeśli mówimy o tym, że najważniejsze są umiejętności, no to opisujmy te umiejętności w taki sposób, żeby one były porównywalne.
We've already said that skills are the most important thing in graduates. So let us develop a language or a system that allows us to precisely present them. So developing a model of language to describe micro-references that would allow us to compare between them. Again, what I'm addressing now are systemic issues. So I'm thinking now on a very strategic level. And the next step would be translating the outcome of the pilot project into specific real-life solutions that can be used not only in informal education and higher education. Both of these areas are very interested in micro-references, but also how can we make use of them in vocational training and K-12. In the K-12 education levels.
To jest też, myślę, ważne w kontekście podejścia do budowania rozwiązań technologicznych.
And this approach is already present in developing other uses for new technologies that start somebody. So these are solutions that we did not come up with when from behind the desk in our office, that in our mind they're just perfect, but we do it in cooperation with representatives of business, education system. We actually have an advisory group where representatives of the ministry are present, the representatives of employers, etc. And one more thing.
Jeśli mówimy o tym dobieraniu umiejętności, które są, bo rozmawiamy o cyfryzacji w powiązaniu edukacja.
So we are talking about digitization linked to education and business, and in this context, in the context of micro-credentials, we need skills that will be useful on the job market. And an anecdote, yesterday representative of the European Commission was discussing a plan for 2030. 20 million of ICT specialists. At the same time, we work together with the company Codilla, which is in charge of micro-credentials in our company. And they create educational programs for people who are now entering the job market. And you can realize, you can imagine how much young ICT specialists struggle to enter the job market. So there needs to be a dialogue between the business community. They need to explain to them what kind of skills they need so that the ICT specialists can be prepared enough to get a job on the job market. So there will be 20 million of them by 2030. Okay, so before we move on, just two comments. In Krakow, I have a neighbor, an ICT specialist who works for IBM. So whenever there is a failure in the software, he travels around Europe to fix it. And I was talking with him about the micro-credentials. About navigating different types of micro-credentials. He said that this way he was gaining market value. And he was also waiting for new opportunities to materialize for him in this context. And also, he told me about a German company IBM was providing support services to. This is a German company that has clients, factories all over the world. And thanks to AI, the managers of factories have all the plans under control. So the conclusion is the following. IBM is a huge multinational company.
Testowo się wdraża w różnych częściach świata, także w obszarze przecież edukacji, bo też testujecie obszary.
Labs are usually there to test solutions to be implemented. The same goes for education, for upskilling and reskilling.
Rzeczywistość, którą może będziemy mieli za rok, 2.
So maybe this reflects the reality that will be there for us in a year or two. So my question is, what's the point of view of IBM on that?
Nazywam się Sławek Kumka, może tak.
Thank you for having me. I'm Sławek Kumka.
Laboratorium oprogramowania IBM.
I'm the head of the software lab of IBM in Krakow. There are about 1,000 ICT specialists that work in our company. We are developing systems that are not AI, but systems that develop AI. So one of our products is a global product for multinational companies. I think that there is something in which I would like to serve people and serve society. I mean, I would like to make it easier for people to get access to education, and I'm quite active in this field. And there are sectorial councils for skills and competences. They are consulting bodies, not only for digitization, but for ICT as well. The question is to the ministry whether you rely on these opinions of the council when drawing your conclusions. But getting back to my speech, I don't want to speak about AI anymore, but a few words about digital detox. And the question is, young people come to work, and they need to be able to discuss, to speak up for themselves, be open, be able to troubleshoot, be communicative, and be versed in sharing their ideas. So we need to put an end to the Prussian education system where people are told to do and required to do things. But we need a different model where people are allowed to talk, listen, and hold debates and discussions. That this is what companies expect. They don't want robots. Robots can be replaced with robots. They want innovative people, creative people who are able to solve different kinds of problems and situations. Well, I represent a company that develops technologies, uses technologies, and launches them. And what I wish is being able to work with people who are capable of critical thinking. For them, an essay is not something they must do just to tick off the subject's requirements, but they write an essay because they know and they want to talk with the teacher and other students afterwards. And this is what I would like to have, talking about skills. And I will keep provoking you. You've mentioned 20 million of ICT experts. The Draghi's report says that it's going to be even worse. So we have to do something to encourage people to study ICT. So one thing is whether people want to study it, or maybe they will have to because there will be no other option.
Ja miałem też przyjemność, mam nadzieję, że to się nie zmieni. Tutaj ponawiam apel do ministerstwa nad tą kamilkową ustawą trochę zrobić.
And I hope it's not going to change because I had the opportunity to help a group of teachers in Krakow and a group of career counselors. They invited me for a meeting to talk about what what we should teach young people and how to encourage them to learn. But I also had the opportunity to meet students of secondary schools, and I talked to them about choosing a career, and you need to talk with them about that. And what about provoking? Well, I'm happy to be here because I want to bust some myths, and I was happy to talk with the young people because I was able to bust some myths for them. Also about technology. It's difficult to try to convince young people not to be afraid of technology when these talks are delivered by people who have no clue at all about technologies. And this is terrifying. The first thing we should do is to provide access to the knowledge. But now it's organized in the following way, that counselors are counselors because they were forced to be counselors, and they don't have the know-how needed to teach young people. So when they talk to young people and they have no competences to do that, well, you know, school children have no mercy for them. And the counselors will have no authority. So this is where the system should be changed.
Oddają notabene 85 000 godzin w tym roku oddanych na edukację dla
in IBM there are many people who are dedicated to education, and they have spent overall 85,000
każdego pracownika oddane dla systemu edukacji w Polsce. Wydaje mi się, że to jest istotne. Trzecia rzecz. Ja trochę jestem przestraszony.
What I'm trying to say is that many employees of IBM spend many hours a month on meetings with young people at schools. And this is the way we should go. And also, what I hear a lot is that we should be afraid of AI because it will take away jobs from us. But I would like to say that this is not true. If you don't have a clue about AI, other people will take your job from you, people who know how AI works and they know how to use it. So let's not be afraid of AI. Let's try to explore it a bit and experiment with it to check how it works, what it can give you, and where you should be careful because it makes mistakes. So this is the third point I wanted to make about what business expects. And also a bit of criticism, but also something that we're proud of, because we also work with universities, and I could spend hours talking about the good and bad sides of working with universities. And some time ago we tried to do things differently, do things that were disruptive. Or you can teach machine learning, coding, but we wanted to do something innovative to catch the attention of young people. We created a job, a profession as IBM, which is put on the official register of occupations. This is called the quantum computing software developer, and we are also the certifying body. And we have a school in Krakow. We run a school for 4 years now. The school has been teaching this curriculum, and soon there will be the first promotion, and people will take the certification exam, and maybe they will become the quantum computer software development.
Warto powiedzieć, które liceum, żebyśmy od razu wiedzieli. To jest jedynka.
This is a curriculum you can study in the Krakow Secondary School #1. And this is not only thanks to our effort, but also thanks to the great teachers in the school, because this course required some changes in the physics and maths curriculum, which was quite an endeavor, how to adjust the program, the curriculum in a smart way, but we managed, we succeeded.
Mam nadzieję, że te osoby będą w tej chwili się broniły. To jest jedyna szkoła średnia na świecie.
So this is the only secondary school in the world where students study quantum computing programming. We did it together with the Ministry of Digitisation, because the ministry and the government is very ambitious about this technology. We are also working together with the Quantum Hub that is being created in Poznań, the city of Poznań. So there are initiatives related to the jobs of the future. They require huge money, a lot of money for a small group of people. But I would like the government to be more interested in the fact that, you know, there is a curriculum ready, there is a program ready, and they are creating a quantum hub in Poznań. So maybe they could take advantage of it to train workers for Poznań, where they are creating the hub. So, because the best strategy you can have is to start preparing people for something that will be there up and running in 5 years. That's a very good thing you have said. Just a comment, because unfortunately Jacek Szewczuk from the Polish Cities and Towns Association couldn't join us, but this resonates strongly with what you have said. Kraków needs to rethink itself strategically. This is one of the greatest challenges, whether we are opting for quantum computing or BPO and the whole industry that is now currently leaving Kraków. New technologies, this is a new change that will require a total rethinking of the education system, secondary and post-secondary education system. Because we need to prepare staff. And the Association of Cities and Towns has the Swiss program with the Swiss funds. And one of the priorities in this program is professional vocational training. I represent the community of family companies, so we will be very willing to join this type of program. But one important thing, that family businesses are usually located outside towns and cities. Kwakro, Wiśniowski, Grzybki. I could name many companies that are located outside of big cities. You know, these are companies that usually are thriving, they are very technologically advanced, but they struggle with the shortage of workers because people leave small towns and villages. They lack the possibilities, the prospects of growth. So Wiśniewski even created his own school to keep them there. So this is something that should change, because these companies operate in niches often, but they are global leaders often. But if they don't have workers, they will be put on sale. So again, vocational training is very important and is strictly related to regional, local development.
połączenia mocno nauk stosowanych i edukacji wyższej
zawodowej. Higher education, vocational education should be linked to applied sciences, and these all together should be strictly linked with regional policies, regional economic policies and educational policies. This is the conclusion of your interventions. This all needs to be linked with the job market, the business community, etc.
I tak patrzę, kto tutaj chętnie do nas dołączy. Zapraszam.
I would like to take questions from the floor now.
Gdzie są te karteczki, to są osoby, które mi obiecały, że usiądą.
So a few people have promised me that they will sit in this chair. Katarzyna Olszewska, the Academy of Applied Sciences in Elbląg. So I represent a university. I agree with you. The business community collaborates with educational facilities quite successfully. At universities, we can adjust curricula to the job market together with employers. So this is an advantage. On practical courses, apprenticeship takes 6 months, and we create the programs, the curricula, together with the employers. So we adapt the content to the employer's needs. Elbląg is a small city in the north of Poland, but quite successful. So students are presented with micro tasks where they learn very specific skills, which they also have to present when they are taking exams. So this means that graduates have a diploma, but they also have a certificate which confirms their vocational education. But the question is whether such a certificate is worth anything for an employer. 6 months of practice is enough to hire a person. Often our students get a job before they graduate. So employers in our city have 6 months to train an employee they want to keep in the company afterwards. And our curricula are written in the language of the employers, because it's not always the case. And there are consultation councils at universities for this purpose. We create such a council, and employers also sit on this council. We meet a few times a year to modify curricula, to innovate. You've mentioned AI, digitization, technology. It's thanks to you that at universities we know what we should do, what we should change. And it's thanks to you that students can take advantage of it. But often universities can't afford teaching advanced technologies, but it becomes possible when they collaborate with the employers.
I actually encourage my students to take courses that are on IBM's website, for instance, on user experience. And I think that there's I would call it a golden triangle. Schools, employers, and students can translate into a lot of benefits for a region in which it is located. Okay, very briefly, I'm very glad that there is an entity that helps us. I will provoke you yet again. Very often working with universities is very demanding. We are involved in 6 faculties, yes, 6 faculties. So when we offer a university to carry out workshops or practical classes, We do it in the following manner. We, the representatives of the world of business, give you materials and a lecturer for 2 years. And dear university, your task is to provide us with people that we can train, to whom we can transfer our knowledge. And now, who will dare to answer a question on how many projects that were started actually were continued? 0. The answer is 0. That they had any follow-up. Do you know why? Oh, I see that the representative of the ministry is smiling, but... And I think that I can ask the ministry the following question. How can you reduce the red tape? Because red tape just makes it impossible for academics to grow and develop, because bureaucracy at university consumes all their time, and then they have bureaucracy related to other areas where they are active, and they have no time. Well, and often they are so poorly remunerated, the university workers, that they look for gigs elsewhere just to make ends meet, and as a result, they have absolutely no time to get involved at university to a degree larger than the bare minimum. Actually, you have raised an important, touched upon an important question, namely learning from one another. And this can already start in secondary school, between students and teachers. When we talk about new technologies, every time when we deal with this subject, we must remember that being open, having an open mind and being willing to listen to those who know more than us is of crucial importance. And of course, in our trainings, we need to focus on safety and critical thinking. But you did say an important thing. Students, employers, and universities are their cooperation have enormous potential, but it's also quite a challenge. What we try to do to make it happen is to observe how the universities are working with employers. We really wanted to launch like dual type of training at universities, and in some cases we succeeded. And I also want to mention employers' representatives. We can have employers represented, but employers often don't have the time to get as involved in those exercises as it should, because if they don't see the value in it, why should they? We can also get employers involved in, for instance, choosing the topics for in choosing the topics for final projects or for graduation projects. Because if this is well coordinated, then as a result, the employer gets a ready employee, ready to start working with them. Because if we have a student who wrote a practical dissertation in order to graduate, and the dissertation is on working or on technologies used in a given company, then basically the employer has a ready-made worker. Okay, so we'll extend the panel by a few minutes. What can you share with us from your own experience? My name is Daniel Kiełpiński. I work in Technical School number 4. I'm following this panel with a great interest, and I do confirm that, for instance, Astor has a great cooperation with schools. I also, like the graduates of my school, also work for IBM, for instance. But I must admit that I am a bit perplexed. I had a period of a difficult relationship with the education system in general, but now I'm back, and the question that I keep having, that I keep re-examining in my head is education. Oh, education, where are you headed?
wybrał szkołę kształcenia zawodowego. To nie jest tak, że on od razu trafia do tej szkoły o danym profilu, bo zazwyczaj...
And let me explain. Students don't treat vocational schools as their first choice. They must be enticed somehow. For instance, a student must attend like an open day at school or a meeting for future students. And in my region, in Silesia, we decided to focus on training students in new technologies. We decided to make it a motto for our region. So this brings me back to my question, vocational education, where are you headed? But we need to find tools and promoters of that education. By promoters, I mean people who have gone through the system of vocational education themselves and who could encourage others to go down the same roads and show them the advantages of such choice.
Zawód technik programista wprowadzony 5 lat temu przez
profession software developer. This was a profession that was introduced by the ministry, but there is too much confusion around it. And the software developer is not a profession that is recognized by technical schools. And it's not recognized by technical universities either. And this should be fixed. Other professions that have other description or other name are recognized, but for some reason, technik programista, which is software developer, is not a specialization that is recognized while it should. Barbara Halska. Okay. Now I have to admit that I'm the person who wrote the national curriculum for software developer, technik programista, and I must say that actually the representatives of the world of business criticized me heavily for my work, and this only shows how important it is to work together with the representatives of business from the very beginning. Soon we'll launch another project in Warsaw that would encourage secondary schools to embrace technology-related subjects. And what can we already introduce in high schools is, for instance, subjects on military defense. This was an idea that was introduced in smaller towns, in smaller cities and towns. And topic that was introduced as the first one, the subject, was cyber security. So actually we should closely follow the developments in the world of business and on that basis build a national curriculum. Speaking of software developer, technik programista, I talked with a representative of one school in Silesia. And the problem was that they had to close a faculty because they were short of teachers. And they did not dare to pursue down that road without having experts that can teach. Great. So I just want to ask the director if he intends to organize a round table attended by even more people, because we all have a lot to say, right? So should we have an open panel like this that brings together representatives of various institutions, or should we stay in our silos, or maybe we should encourage an employer to do it? Well, is it recorded? Because we have touched upon so many subjects. Yes, Konrad knew that if there is such a debate, then there's such a panel, then it must be recorded. The remark was off the mic. Yes, we did touch upon a number of
już teraz osobny, jako osobne ministerstwo i też tutaj wewnątrz ministerstwa też te tematy dotyczyły bardzo wielu obszarów. Znaczy, ja lubię takie dyskusje.
I must say that I like exchanging thoughts and ideas in this format, in the format of a round table. It might be a good idea to organize this kind of meetings regularly. Yeah, maybe we could invite representatives of other ministries like infrastructure, Ministry of Technology.
Mówiąc za siebie, to myślę, że warto by było, żeby jakby też z naszej strony co jakiś czas były takie spotkania, na których my na przykład prezentujemy swoje plany i zamierzenia.
I think that we can organize meetings during which we will share our ideas for the coming few years, maybe. Yeah, and I can even come up with a venue. Recently, I talked with the head of the subcommittee in the Polish Parliament on innovation, and we can devote a meeting of their group to vocational training, because vocational training determines how competitive our economy will become, and such meetings are always attended by ministers and other key players, key stakeholders, so I already know how to sell it to her. Yes, meetings of the parliament committees and subcommittees can be organized in the parliament or in our venue. So should we create such a forum? Shall we? Is it a good idea? Yes, you can. We can. You can show your enthusiasm and approval with a round of applause. All right, so that's settled then, and you just need to tell it to your boss that we have a forum that now wants to meet at your venue. Yes, I will pass this on. I really don't know which of the threads that we have discussed is the most important. One thought that I have is that we should address the following thing. We often hear that the ministry should do this or that, ban this or that. For example, that the ministry at the central level should put forward guidelines on smartphone presence and use in classroom. So there are some people who, in our group, that believe that there should be guidelines issued on the central level, but maybe actually it's a better idea to encourage schools to adopt rules at the level of a school. I don't know what's your impression, but every time I attend meetings on digitization, I keep seeing representatives of the same schools.
Na różnych poziomach czy etapach edukacji, brakuje tej ich aktywności i co z tego, że my napiszemy najlepsze programy, projekty.
And actually, we should get more schools involved, because sure, we can write the best guidelines, the best projects. We can invest in communicating them, but if nothing gets moving at the school level, we'll get nowhere. Thank you. And this brings us to the end of this debate. It was a truly round table. Unfortunately, we have to end now because of time restrictions, although I would love...
Może takie mieć szczególne znaczenie w tej nowej dobie sztucznej inteligencji.
So maybe just to finish off one sentence.
Dziękuję bardzo.
From me to sum up this meeting, what a skill that will truly matter in the future.